Graham Vincent, violin maker and musician, back in my favourite place, that is to say my workshop. So today I am getting on with the two lime wood violins that I started. I've also cut out some necks for the next 2 or 3 violins as well, because I thought as I was marking out the 2 necks for this 2 I'm making, I might as well mark out 3 more at the same time. But the main thing I'm doing today is working on fingerboards. As you may know from previous sort of videos, I'm absolutely determined not to use ebony. I just want to use renewable stuff from this point onwards. Well, not from this point, it's been several years now. I've been using my own sort of ebony alternative that I've been making, which was torrefied timber. Effectively, you get some timber, you put it in the oven, wrap it in tin foil, put it in the oven, and cook it, sort of starved of oxygen, obviously, because it's wrapped in tin foil. So effectively, you're making charcoal, really. But you don't quite take it as far as that. So you take it so it's got a nice dark colour, but it's still got some decent structure. And then what I was doing is putting it into a vacuum chamber with a heat-cured epoxy resin. And so the vacuum actually draws the air out of the timber. The epoxy sort of then soaks right the way through the timber. Then you put it in the oven again, about 100 degrees, and bake the epoxy, which cures it. So it's a long-winded kind of job. And also, it means the oven is on full blat for, in the end, it was working at about 5 or 6 hours. With this whole energy crisis that's going on at the moment, I was sort of scratching my head thinking, again, you know, there was the cost of the energy. There's also the whole thing about how green is epoxy resin as well. That was a worry. So I've been looking around for other alternatives I can use. There's a couple of, the Swiss seem to be really into this. They're making, what's it called, sonar wood, I think it's called, which is a sort of a heat and pressure compressed timber. They're doing it with pine and also with ash, I think, I might be wrong, or maple, or all 3. But there's the price they're selling this stuff for is horrendous, which kind of puts it out of my price range for sort of raw materials, really. So I've been scratching my head and looking around and wondering what else to do. I was thinking of, you know, just going back to a sort of, you know, real Baroque style fingerboards made out of boxwood, which is certainly something I might do for a violin for myself at some stage. And also, I mean, some just the sort of a veneer of a hard timber, like, well, the classic one was ebony that the late Baroque period was using, but something, maybe a boxwood veneer over a sort of a lighter substrate to make up a sort of a fingerboard thickness piece. However, I had a good look around at a few other things. I mean, I even got a sample of black corian in. Corian is sort of some sort of silicate-filled polycarbonate, as far as I'm aware. So it's basically a sort of like a plastic stone, really, a sort of stone in a powder in a sort of plastic matrix. But that doesn't feel right under the fingers. And I've kind of the one that I've come to, which I'm having a go at on this batch, is Rich Light. There are a couple of alternatives. There's I think one's called Paper Stone and one's called Rich Light. There was one called Rock Light, which was made in the UK, but they're just making bindings for guitars now. But fundamentally, we're talking about black paper set in a formaldehyde resin, and I've started shaping one of these already. That's what we're talking about. It's perhaps a little bit heavy, but in all other respects, it looks like it's going to be really good, I have to say. So I'm testing that out. Let's see how that goes. So I mean that's what I'm up to at the moment. I'm hoping that I'll get, because I'm doing how many am I doing? Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those fingerboards. I'm hoping to get 8 fingerboards kind of shaped today, to the point where they can go onto violins. As I say, I only need 2 of them immediately, but it's you know, process of mass production and so on. Obviously, you know, doing sort of 8 in one hit will speed things up on the next batch of violins, on the next few violins. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble, so you've probably got the general idea of what I'm up to. On we go. I've got the workshop door open today. It's mid-January. I mean, it's a beautiful day out there, but it's still only about 4 degrees centigrade, 5 degrees, maybe 6 at the absolute most. So it's pretty chilly. But the problem with this stuff is it's in a formaldehyde resin, set in a formaldehyde resin. So obviously I am using all of the safety gear that you would need, but I'm also just leaving the workshop door wide open so we get as much fresh air as possible. I'm doing a little bit of sanding. Obviously that's all as extracted as I can possibly make it, but nevertheless, got to be a little bit careful. So I marked the first one out really carefully, and then I'm using that as a template to mark out the rest. I'm using a marking knife, which, as traditionally as you'd expect, is a one-sided bevel. I mean, obviously come in different shapes and forms and so on, but you use the flat side against the ruler or the template or whatever it is you're using to mark things out. I'm pushing down quite hard to make sure this doesn't slip. Last thing I want. Ooh, back on myself. How's that look? Oh yeah, good. It's nicely marked out. Don't know if you can see that, but that gives me something to work to on the sander. Yeah, blimey, this stuff really is so tough. It's amazing. It's also beautifully like ebony, it really is. Yeah, so the next thing I do is I've got this sort of jig which has got the appropriate radius on it. It's got a sort of that end to hold that end up. You wedge this in here so that if you just follow that curve, takes this down to pretty much exactly the right shape for the fingerboard. So that's the next thing, is to cut that down. This Japanese saw file, I think they're called, seems to be one of the best ways of tackling this. It responds so well to the scraper as well. I've also got a scraper which I've cut the appropriate radius into, which is it 42 millimeters? Don't quote me on that one, I may be wrong. Because this is bonded with formaldehyde, it's pretty smelly, and obviously not very good for you at all in the machining stage. I mean, it's once it's done, it doesn't seem to smell at all. It's fine. It's quite stable and inert. But this is where one of the little things I've got in my workshop, which is absolutely great, is just a bathroom extraction system on a sort of 150mm tube, which I use in situations like this. So I'm just going to pop that there, and get in there, basically. So that's it, taken down more or less to a sort of an interim sort of level. I'll glue that onto the neck before I've actually put the scoop, you know, the slight concave surface onto it, because I that needs to be really accurate. So that wants to be done once it's fixed and stable on the neck, because I mean that can change once you glue it to the neck. So yeah, I mean, there's the other one I've done. I mean, basically that will be after the scroll is cut. I'll glue this on. Before I do that, of course, I've got the scoop to put into it, which I'll do now. But we're getting there. We're getting there, and I have to say this material is lovely. It's so tough, wonderful. And this scraper is what I'll use to finish it when it's on the neck as well. Yeah, that's looking fab. I'm really happy with that. Good. This is one of those tools, you saw me using this in the time lapse. This is one of those tools I bought ages ago, and I think that's the first time I think I've ever used it. In all honesty, it's not as fast as the saw rasp, but it's kind of it changes as good as the rest, isn't it? Would I buy one again? Nah. Next, one of the simplest little jigs, block of wood with a a tapered slot cut in it. This is so I can, you see where I've marked out the scoop, so basically that will grip it like this, and I can cut it. There we have it. I mean, basically, this is, as far as I'm taking the fingerboards at this stage, basically they are located by these little pins now onto the neck and numbered, because I've got 2 of them. So I'll make sure they go back in the same place every time. I will put them to one side, and the next stage is to get on and mark up the scrolls. Some people actually cut the peg box out first. I haven't yet decided which I'm going to do. Normally I do the scroll, the cheeks, and shape the neck into the sort of the top of the neck before I actually cut out the peg box, but we'll see. Anyway, that's for another video. Cheers folks.